Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. It is Thursday night. I thought I would come on and talk to you guys about the things that I've been reading lately. It is actually a pretty mild night. I'm out here on my porch, but tomorrow night, I guess, is supposed to bring in all of the crazy weather that a good portion of this part of the US anyway is sort of looking forward to, sort of dreading. For me and my own family and household here, I think for the most part we're looking forward to it. We have a wood stove and we have a whole forest full of wood here, and my shelves are stocked and there's nowhere we have to go. And my husband can work from home and nobody else needs to leave. And so we're excited about it. But I do know that there are a lot of people who are having a lot of anxiety and concern just, about losing power. I think is probably the biggest concern that people are thinking about, right? Because if you have no backup heat source, it can be pretty scary with those super low temperatures that we're supposed to be facing. This morning, my weather app said it was supposed to be -10 on Monday morning. Now we're up to -6. But at that low of a temperature, I don't think it really matters. 4 degrees. I think you're just really sneaking freezing. So anyway, all that to say, I thought I'd enjoy one more night out here in a semi-tolerable temperature, but I do want to remember and pray for and think about people who are going to be struggling this weekend. And I'm just hoping that it's beautiful but not dangerous, right? So yeah, I thought I'd come on and share the stuff that I have been reading over the last couple of weeks. My January has gotten off to an extremely slow start, but in the last few days I've sort of made up for that. I have been stuck on one book for, it was a couple of weeks. But we'll get to that in a second. But the first thing that I finished since I last talked to you guys about my reading is The Wizard of Oz. So this version actually has 3 stories: The Wizard of Oz, The Emerald City of Oz, and Glinda of Oz. So my 14-year-old daughter and I have been reading The Wizard of Oz, and we did finish it. And so we moved on to The Emerald City of Oz, but finished that. And if you guys haven't seen these, this is the penguin threads. If you can kind of tell, it looks like everything is sort of embroidered. And the really fun thing is that on the back, it looks like the back of a piece of embroidery. So I just think that's so cool. And I've never seen these in any other shop except for just one when I was up in Michigan. But I saw this one and Emma, and that's it. And I don't think there's a whole lot in this series, so I'm not sure what's up with that, but I would like to find others if I can. But anyway, read that. And then here is the one, The Once and Future King by T.H. White. I overall did not enjoy this, which is frustrating because I had chosen this one for both my 50 by 50 challenge and for Anne's Reading the Classic Challenge, which the prompt this month is to pick a predicted 5-star read. And I wanted to choose something from my 50 by 50, and so as I looked it over, I thought, out of all of these books, this one looks like the best. I really, actually, horribly despised this story. I don't know if I will ever read this again, ever. So I'm sorry if that is disappointing. I know at least one of my booktube friends has that on your list for this year. So I'm sorry to deliver the bad news, but maybe you'll love it. I don't know. I am really actually looking forward to seeing what other people think of this story. But me, no. I despise all 639 depressing pages of this book. I begrudgingly gave it 2 stars. So the story is supposed to be the King Arthur stories, right? And so in this volume, there are 4 stories. So the guy, T.H. White, actually wrote 5 stories. But at the time of the publication of this volume, there was only 4. And then posthumously, they published the 5th one. So I ended up going on Paperback Swap and found the 5th volume, which I think is actually, I'm getting the 1st edition, which would be super cool. So that's supposed to be here pretty soon. But I read the other 4. And the first one is The Story of the Sword and the Stone. It's kind of Disney. It's kind of Monty Python. It's what the cartoon Disney Sword and the Stone film was based on. So for the most part of that story, I was thinking, okay, yeah, we could probably do 5 stars here. But then the ending was like so anticlimactic that I was just like, you could have done so much with this and you chose not to. So 4 stars. So after the first story, I had bumped it down to 4 stars. Then came part 2, which is called The Queen of Air and Darkness. And for that one, the story focused a lot on the good character of Arthur and kind of like what he wanted in a kingdom, like what his, you know, standards were, his morals, whatever. He based it on the idea that might isn't always right, you know, that kind of stuff, like it's a more loving way of dealing with things, and sort of matured the land into being not so heathen and barbarian. I don't know, that I guess was the impression. That's kind of the impression I got of what they were saying that he had done with his, you know, with his goal for his kingship. But it really didn't mention Arthur all that much at all in this chapter. So, or in this, you know, volume. So the first volume was all about Arthur, but the second one, not so much. Part 3 was The Ill-Made Knight, and that one featured Lancelot. And this is where it all started to go way down the hill, super fast, completely off the rails, crash, burn, die in the middle of the forest. It was really twisted and creepy. It just, there wasn't a whole lot of a mention of Arthur in this one either. The story was really more about Lancelot and Guinevere, and it was just really depressing. There was really just like no likable characters at all. So that knocked it down to 3 stars. Well, then I got to the 4th volume, which is called The Candle in the Wind. And this one was just depressing, frustrating, morally gross. I was just like, nope. 2 stars, and only because I felt bad for the guy because he spent such a long time writing this. So, like I said, I found the 5th volume, ordered it. It's not here yet. I will read it at some point. It's not very long. I might read it sooner rather than later. But this book, it's just, I think I got really angry that the author made this into a love story because, spoiler alert, if you don't already know, but Lancelot and Guinevere have an affair. But instead of it just being like a quick in your mind, I think I love you, wait, never mind, I'm married, I don't love you, oh wait, never mind, I'm the most, you know, the knight with the most integrity in the entire realm, so therefore I must be true to my king. Like, it was just their whole lives for decades and decades and decades. And I think one part that really upset me was at the end when they are in their older years, like 60s or whatever, it's talking all about their beautiful love and how even though she's aged, Lancelot still sees the beauty in her and how much they appreciate each other in these older years and all this kind of garbage. And I'm thinking to myself, it's still adultery, and adultery is never beautiful. It is never romantic. I don't care how long you have been with the person that you have, you know, been cheating with all these years. It's never beautiful. And it was just really ticking me off. So, didn't love this book. And that is the biggest reason why. It wasn't a story about Arthur. It was a story about Lancelot and Guinevere and their sick and twisted attempt at having a romantic lifelong relationship while she is still married to his best friend, the king, and everybody's okay with it. Just no. So now I'm really cautious because I know the general gist of the King Arthur legends and things, and I've studied, you know, and I've looked into things like when I'm in England, just different sites and things that people attribute, right? And I watched all of the episodes of Merlin. And I'm just saying, if we can't have like that kind of a Arthur and Guinevere story, then I just don't want one at all. So I think I'm gonna go like read Thomas Mallory's version and see if like I'm just completely jaded. That was a really long, I know that was really long, guys, I'm sorry, but I cannot recommend that book. It was horrific. Okay, then happiness. So since I was in a medieval mood, I pulled out my Meetings with Remarkable Manuscripts, which I think is a fantastic title. And this is such a beautiful book. There are 12 chapters in here about different like medieval manuscripts that we still have. And they're obviously, you know, all in museums under lock and key. But this guy, Christopher de Hamel, he is like the guy in charge of the library at Corpus Christi College in Cambridge. I don't remember his exact title of what he does there, but a fellow of Corpus Christi College. He's the former librarian of the college's Parker Library. He's like staff, alumni, whatever. I can't think of words, but anyway, he wrote this book. It's really fantastic. So each chapter is about a different manuscript, and my plan was to read one chapter a month all year long. But I read this first chapter. It's on the one from St. Augustine, and it is called, yeah, just the Gospels of St. Augustine from the late 6th century. And it is at Cambridge Corpus Christi College. And I was so obsessed with this book. Like, it was so interesting to me to read about that manuscript. It's got all these photos in here of different pages in it, and I had to like get my magnifying glass out because my eyesight is kind of bad. It was so interesting to me, and as soon as I finished that one chapter on the St. Augustine Gospels, I was like, I just want to keep reading this. So I didn't, just because I wanted to kind of cement the things I learned about the St. Augustine Gospels in my head before I moved on, but there's no way I'm waiting an entire year to read this. So I will probably read some more this weekend. But I love this. Like, if you are interested in studying medieval-ish things, highly recommend this. It is so interesting, so good. There's history, there's art, there's nerdy stuff. So good. Oh, I stuck this in here because I think this is the other bookmark. I remember last time I showed you guys the bookmarks my husband got me. This is the third one that I couldn't find last time I was showing you these. Just so cute. Okay. And then here's my DNF. So I was really excited to read this. This is The Sinner's All Thou by Kate Winkler Dawson. A true crime story that the Scarlet Letter, they think the Scarlet Letter was actually based on. And also a true crime that was written contemporary, early 1800s, called Fall River. Both of those stories were based apparently on this true crime story of a girl who was found, and they didn't know if it was her taking her own life or someone else taking her life, and just this whole mystery. And so I read, I don't know, good ways into it, 40 pages maybe, and I'm just not, it's one of those things where I'm like, you know what, maybe I just want to read the Wikipedia. Because it's like it's an investigative journalist. She investigates true crime. She has a podcast, I guess, according to Bethany, right? I think Bethany said that. And so she gets every little detail, and she's like making a story, and she's trying to be really engaging, and it's not bad at all, but it just wasn't going fast enough for me. Like, I just want to know the basics. So I was looking forward to this. It was kind of my Nathaniel side quest, and I ended up saying, no, I'm just going to Wikipedia and be done with the idea because it's just too much backstory that I don't really care about. So I DNF'd that one. And then this is a book that maybe I think I wish I would have DNF'd. Now, this is I Was Anastasia. You get me. By Ariel Lawhon. Now, first question is, I also was planning on reading The Frozen River. Tell me if it's worth my time, because I wish I would have read that first, because I don't know that I want to read it after reading this. So this book probably deserves 4 stars, but after finishing it, I just was not in the mood. For the many hours that I spent with my eyes glued to the pages of this book and doing nothing else with my life, I pretty much despised those hours in the end. I kind of think I hate the story. So the story is about, it's dual timeline or dual narrative. Or is it? It's the story of Anastasia Romanov and the person who claimed to be Anastasia Romanov for a really long time. If you're not familiar with the story, the Romanov family were the last emperor and empress of Russia, and in the 19-teens, big political revolution, blah blah blah, whatever, and they ended up taking the royal family and putting them under house arrest, and then things just got worse and worse and worse, and eventually the parents and 4 daughters and son were all murdered. And it was horrible. Maybe 10, 9 or 10, 8-ish, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there years later, this woman emerged in Germany, maybe, claiming to be one of the daughters, Anastasia. And there's all kinds of ideas about how that came to be and who started that, who perpetuated that or whatever. But she claimed from her early 20s all the way until the day she died at almost 80, I think, she claimed to be Anastasia Romanov. She went by the name of Anna Anderson because nobody would give her any ID under the name of Anastasia Romanov. And she spent a good portion of her adult life trying to prove through courts that she was Anastasia. There's a big fortune to be found, but also she in some ways she had proof, and she could make some really good cases. There was a lot of people who did believe this, and that's, I think, why the courts took her seriously, because there was just a lot of questions that she could answer that seemed odd that she would know this information, and there were people that thought there was similarities in the way they looked and whatever. I have always, I read the biography of Anna Anderson, probably, I don't know, 15 or 20 years ago. And at that time, the biography ended where the information that we had ended. And it was basically, we don't know. We don't know if she really is her or not. And so I was just left wondering, right? And I wanted to believe so bad for so long that it really was Anastasia. And then over time, it had come out, they were able to run DNA on this woman, Anna Anderson. Turns out that it does not match. They used the Queen's husband, Prince Philip. They used his DNA to kind of match up because he is related to Anastasia's mother. They did it through that line. Anastasia's mother was the granddaughter of Victoria too. So I don't know why they chose Philip, whatever. That must have just been the best option. Turns out that the DNA didn't match, and then there's a whole bunch of, there's just lots of stuff. If you want all the details, there's lots of YouTube videos giving all of the details on this, but basically that's what this story was about. I think I didn't like it for a few reasons. One, I can't really tell you because it's sort of a spoiler, but basically the author called my bluff at the end and made me mad. Second reason was just the way it was structured was really difficult. I don't feel like someone who is completely unfamiliar with a story would be able to follow this book, because her 2 timelines, one of them goes backwards while one of them is going forward. So the story of Anna Anderson starts in her old age and then goes backward all the way to the end of the story, where it ends with the event that started everything. The story of Anastasia starts when they first start dealing with, you know, the revolution or whatever. And then it goes all the way through until the family is dispatched. And so it's fine. It's easy to follow Anastasia's story. One, because it's a familiar history. It's history, right? Like, a lot of people know that story, so that's easy to follow, but also just because it goes in chronological order. But then this other story of Anna Anderson, it starts at the end. If I couldn't have filled in all of the information based on the fact that I've read her biography twice, I would not have followed that. It was very confusing. And when you go on the Goodreads and you read the reviews for this book, that's what people are saying. They're like, this was very confusing. I didn't track. I was not following the story that Anna Anderson lined. So I would recommend, if you really are interested, if you want to read something, there is a biography of Anna Anderson by Peter Kurth. And that's the one that I have read a couple of times, and then you can get that information and then read the story. Otherwise, you could just, YouTube it. There are videos that are 15, 20 minutes long that give all of the pertinent basics to help you follow the story better. Because I understand that the author did it so it could be like super climaxy and cool, but it doesn't work unless you know the story, I don't think. And so do a lot of other reviewers think. One theme that the author brought to light that I really don't think I picked up on in all of the things I've read about the Romanovs over the years was just the super entitledness of them. She made them out to be really ignorant, and they just really didn't seem to have much of a clue about how the rest of the world lived. And I just wonder, like, was that really the way it was? Just things like, they're prisoners, basically. They're under house arrest. They're not being treated very well. And the mother is like all put out because someone didn't bring her a chair, or they moved them up to Siberia to keep a river between them to bide time, I guess, is what's going on. And she's complaining because she thought they were going to be in a mansion. Just like, you're under house arrest. Like, you're prisoners. Your husband is no longer the leader of this country, and you're complaining because you don't get a mansion? Like, you're lucky you haven't yet been dispatched, right? So it was just weird. But then I'm like, well, maybe I am seeing a perspective, that they clearly couldn't see because they didn't really, I don't think they really faced it, that they were actually, not in charge anymore. They were actually destitute. They really didn't have anything anymore. They're upset because they're traveling on a public train, not their own train, and just like things like that. So I am curious how much of that was sort of, just maybe, exaggerated for the story's sake, or how much of that was really the case. And if that is the case, and, I can see why people wanted to revolt. I mean, I'm not condoning what they did, but I am definitely understanding why people would have an issue, right? When your leadership is just completely clueless to how the people live. But anyway, we won't go there. I did appreciate that she made Anastasia and her sisters just a little bit more level-headed, especially Anastasia. Seems to be very level-headed. It never really felt like she was as ignorant as the rest of her family, and even to some degree the sisters didn't seem as ignorant as their parents, for sure. I just ultimately was not a fan of this book. If you guys want to read more, it's in my Goodreads. But yeah, now I'm cautious about the Frozen River because I've heard such good things about it. But I don't know if I like this author. Like, she really made me mad at the end with her little author's note. I don't know. You guys tell me if you've read Frozen River, if you like it. Or if you read I Was Anastasia and liked it. You can let me know that too. We can duke it out in the comments. Okay, then last night I finished the 7th volume of the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon. And I can't say too much because everyone on the planet should read this series. And I don't know where you are at the moment in it, because surely you're reading it, right? So for those who have read it, please don't give me any spoilers for volume 8. I'm planning on picking it up next week, and then, I'll be devouring it immediately, so don't give me any spoilers. But for volume 7, I will have to say that the way that everything turned out, I'm not having it. I'm not having it. So if you have read this, go to my Goodreads and click on my spoilers and you can see my thoughts, because I don't like how this is going. But I did read on her website last night that she is doing like at least 20 of these, and we're only on volume 7, so that gives plenty of time for things to go a different direction. And ultimately, they're just going to have to go one of the 2 directions that I mentioned on my Goodreads. So you guys can check out that review for all my thoughts on that if you have read it and want to. But I don't want to give any spoilers. So that's where I left off last night. And then I'm having a hard time finding something to read, because I'm doing that slumpy thing that you do when you just finished a really great book and you know that nothing can compare. So as soon as I turn this off, I have to go into my library and try to find something to read. Please wish me blessings and discernment. I don't want to waste my time on another DNF. The weekend is coming. Snow is coming. I'm pretty positive we're going to be stuck here at home for at least a week. My husband is already planning on working from home all week next week, because we live up on a hill and you can't get off of here safely when there's ice and snow. And so I really need some good stuff to read, because the kids are going to be having snow days and I'm going to be having reading snow days. So here I am, off to my little personal library to pick out a book. I hope it goes well. Hope you guys are doing well. Stay safe and warm. Say hi in the comments. Let me know how things are going. And I will see you soon. Bye-bye.